room. We think of Tennyson's Lady of Shalott, don't we? Another text that we've lectured on, where we're kind of all by ourselves, even though we're around lots of people. And the key, we're always searching for the key to get out of the room. What's the key? Like, where's the key? If only I could find the key, I could find my way out of this. Many have argued that maybe the key here is what we've been searching for from the very beginning. When we read the lines, April is the cruelest month. Notice it's the we think of the key. We're back to the hollow men and the opening lines of the hollow men. We are the hollow men. We are the stuff men. Finally, as we finish the poem, there's all kinds of things going on at the end of this thing. Eliot is in full force here. The sea was calm, is the actually, with one exception of the word, you know this is the opening lines of Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. And again, the sea is calm tonight. That is to say, the sea of faith was once too at the full. I think Eliot's bringing a lot of things to its fruition here. Notice the shall I at least set my lands in order? That's back to that notion of if. What am I going to do? What should I do? And then with this notion of the swallow, right? Oh, swallow, swallow. You got all kinds of interesting things going on here as well in regards to the word swallow. Can be both to swallow, but it can also be the name of a bird. And we're immediately back to Philomel and our nightingale. He says it. Many have said that the very final lines here are the most important lines of the poem, especially this line. These fragments I have shored against my ruins. This has been a poem. Let's put it in our notes. This has been a poem of fragments. This has been a poem of voices that were in fragments. And we could make the argument that T.S. Eliot himself is trying to somehow shore up against the ruin of society. In other words, what is wrong with society? Well, this is again this notion that there's not much good news of modernity for Eliot. It's all pretty much bad. We finish, of course, with the word shanti. Peace that passeth understanding is the way it's usually translated. Peace. Recited 3 times. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Does this mean that there's some hope? That maybe there's some reason to have some expectation of a future? Well, let's finish up. 2a. Notice, life can't grow without water. You got to have water. What is the water of your life? The spiritual water of your life, the values of your life. What is it that makes your life complete, full, happy? Is it possible you could write a 36, a perfect score in the ACT, that you could make $1 billion later in your life and still not be happy? And if that's possible, well then what's missing? Water, T.S. Eliot says. What kind of water? You got to find out, right? Let's keep going. Life, of course, must be about 3 things. Giving, sympathizing, right? Compassion. And finally, some kind of sense of discipline. We're reminded, aren't we, of those final lines of Longfellow's Psalm of Life, right? Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. At 2b, well, again, we've got all kinds of interesting stuff happening at lines 344 and 367, that whole thing of clatter and chatter. It's the genius, right, of those repetitions, all of that happening, right? At 3a, well, relating to other texts, obviously the Upanishads, the perennial philosophy is what Houston Smith calls it. I would write this title down if you're unfamiliar with some of these religious traditions, religions of the world. I mentioned this in other lectures as well, where Houston Smith will just introduce you to some of the ideas that have been introduced in this poem. Finally, at 3b, question as we finish this one. How do you find peace in this crazy, screwed up world? How do you do it? Where do you find your peace? Where does it come from? What about your values? What about do you find that you can consider the most important? Of course, we finish this inevitably asking, is it possible that you could be a little bit more generous? Could you be a little bit more sympathetic, a little bit more compassionate? Could you be a little bit more disciplined, right? Well, there you go, an introduction to T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. I hope that you can grow from this study and find occasions now to as well enjoy the poem. Look for in the future lectures over 4 quartets, which is the other set of poems that T.S. Eliot published before he died, which many believe are really his most hope-filled poems. Old men should be explorers. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you hanging with me for this lecture. I hope that it helped you understand this poem. Thank you.